All right, good evening, everyone. We'll call the meeting to order at 6:01 p.m. Thank you. Yes. Welcome to the November 29th of the 2022 APA board meeting. I hope everyone's doing well. Everyone enjoyed their Thanksgiving break, weekend, family, friends, whatever you want to call it or so, time, and got to enjoy that with your colleagues there. So first on the agenda here, we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance in a moment of silence.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. All right. First thing on the agenda, can I get a motion to approve the agenda for this evening for November 29th, 2022?
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Okay. I have a motion.
I'll second.
A second. Any discussion? One thing I will say, we do need to amend the agenda this evening here. Under new business, under A there, Captain Fraley is unable to attend this evening, so we'll go ahead and remove that from the agenda if we can. All right. Any other further discussion?
We need to add the field trip.
Oh, yeah, add the filter trip. Oh, thank you.
New business?
Yes.
Look at that.
Yeah, that's correct. Yes, and also new business, we need to add, there is a field trip also. If you haven't seen there, in addition to the 29th Street field trip is for Wright-Patterson, Air Force Museum on January 12th of 2023. All right, I think I got it all now. Awesome. All right, any other further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, it's approved. Public comments, anyone here for public comments signed up or anyone? No?
Yes, sir, Sergeant Tidwell.
Sergeant Tidwell, okay, all right. First, we'll go ahead with the public comments here. And go ahead and speak. Good evening, thank you for attending. We'll go ahead and give you the floor here.
I just had a real quick question, and I don't know how either the elementary side works or the high school side works. I just had a question on, do you have room or possibility for volunteers to help in either side, high school, middle school, or elementary school with the tutoring or anything like that, whether it be during school or after school?
Yes, we have, absolutely. Yes to all of the above. K-12 and home tutoring, whatever your skills and talents are, we got a place for you. And we do also have some paid volunteer type of opportunities, so I guess that's kind of a contradiction there. But we definitely, all hands are welcome.
Is that something to go through you or?
Yeah, I can connect you to Fraley as well as over here with probably Mal. We've got a lot of kiddos right now, especially at the end of the semester, that we are trying so hard to really push, get them through. You know, you've been around a little bit, right? Like they like to do that last minute stuff, so definitely. So thank you. All right.
All right.
Marking you down. We're going to
Perfect.
see you every day, man.
There you go.
I like that.
We like that, perfect. All right. I believe that's it for public comments. Thank you for that. All right, next thing on the agenda here, I'd like to put a motion to approve the meeting minutes here from the last meeting in October 25th of 2022.
I will make a motion that we approve the minutes of our prior board meeting as presented to us.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you. Next thing on the agenda here is the approval of the CEO report here. Alright.
How did we go?
Yeah. Alright. There it is. Got it. Yes. All right. Let you guys take a second to look over that if so. All right. I'd like to put
I'm
it.
prepared to make a motion that we accept the November CEO report.
All right.
I will second it.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Page 4 is an excellent summary on something later here towards the end of our meeting on the budget amendment. I think this reflects what we talked about yesterday, of course, your original email. So actually, I shouldn't have to say too much because that does sort of cover what it's all about there. So excellent write-up on that.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
Good job on finding a bus.
Yes. Yes.
We found a dealer in Tennessee, and
Oh
it's
my
in
goodness.
production right now. So we're hoping we can figure out the second one, but yeah, we moved as quickly as we could on that. It's been interesting.
Perfect. All right. Any further discussion?
Just real quick, reverting back to the last year report on the trailer. Any news on it?
We have replaced, we found a replacement, and we've already purchased it, and it's already in use. As far as follow-up with police and all of that, they've not been able to identify any or pursue anything on that. Insurance is covering it, and basically our new trailer will end up costing us $54. So after they overvalued the trailer that we had, and more than what we thought it was going to be. So good for inflation, I guess, right now on that one minor thing. And then after our $500 deductible, we just have to pay $54.
Nice.
So that's about it on that.
Do we have anything in place to help prevent this from happening again, or?
We're just housing everything in the castle.
Okay. I was kind of hoping that's where that was going.
Yes. So, and we've been working probably about 8 months now trying to figure out how to automate the big garage door. That we've had several companies come out. There's side mount options. There's one company that says that the ceiling clearance isn't high, or there's not enough space, so we'd have to redo the drop ceiling, which is fine if that means that we can actually drive in and out and all that. So, eventually it would be nice if we could get a bus barn and use kind of a pole barn structure and put a concrete pad down and all of that, but that's at least another $100,000 to do that, and then obviously excavating the land and things. We have the property to be able to accommodate that. It's also hard to find any builders right now with like the car steel ports and pole barn thing. So looking into those options, but right now, yes, everything's either guarded over at 22nd Street with the gate, or it's where the castle, except for the Fine Arts trailer right now. But
Joe, what's your recommendation? It sounds like you are, in a dream world, you want some more secure location other than the castle. Is that what I'm hearing?
yes, well, for those of you not aware, the castle is another courtyard over on the other side. It has a brick castle in it for some reason around the HVAC that's out there. But yes, having a secure location, having a bus barn where we would be able to have the space to be able to do our own maintenance on the buses, do our own oil changes, and especially with our other equipment that we have, the yard equipment and the snow removal equipment, that would make the most sense for us.
I'm asking that just so the board has, we don't have a seat, so we know what might be coming later.
Gotcha.
on.
Yes.
That's good enough.
I anticipate you seeing it in your future.
In the past, back in the day, the castle actually used to be open, and it used to be the teacher parking lot. Back in the day.
Nice.
And then they enclosed everything.
Gotcha. We've been curious why the castle,
Yeah, the
but
side door to the small gym used to be to the outside.
nice.
Boy, I'm dating myself, aren't I?
So you get the history of it, yes.
We bought the building about 10, so that was about 12 years ago, I'm sure, so.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, but
Back in my elementary school days.
the next read on the.
Awesome.
Somewhat related to that topic, I'm understanding from CO report that there was a theft at 22nd Street, something about a time clock that's
Oh,
caused us some problems too. Of course, we were not victimized externally. But, so,
yeah, we'll discuss that,
I
that,
see.
Yes.
Okay.
not an
Yes.
item stolen.
Yes. Absolutely. All right. We have a motion and a second already. Any other further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries to approve that. Thank you. Next thing on the agenda is the financial report. First thing on here is approval of the board treasurer report here. We also have online here our colleagues there at bookkeeping. Good evening. I hope you guys enjoyed your vacation, your time off, and your Thanksgiving as well too. So thank you for joining us tonight.
Okay. Well, let's see, we'll first begin taking a look at October, both the month of October and then, let's say, our projection for year end based on what has occurred through 10/31/22. Looking at just the month of October, total income was slightly under budget at $726,015, about $61,000 under budget. Very familiar reasons for that, mostly the food service, and then we had been expecting, I think, 15,000 E-rate income, which we did not get in that month. We may hopefully get that in November. E-rate, of course, is much lower than it was last year. It was over 200,000. This year, I think, it seemed like 135 or something like that. That's because let's see, there was a grant last year associated with that, so we don't get the benefit of that. In the month of October, then, against our total income, we did have 169,374 in total expenses, which was over budget. However, here's an example of where one has to be very careful when you're looking at just monthly data by itself. Of that 169,000, 115,000 was additional building improvements. Now, my understanding, and of course, sometimes if I'm wrong, we have our experts here, Beth and Andrea, to correct or shed any additional light on this. But anything that is showing up as on the building improvements line basically means that APA has gotten the bill and paid the bill, and we're waiting for reimbursement. So eventually, if these are expenses under ESSER, for example, this will really be a wash in the end. But and this is what's difficult trying to do the budget analysis, particularly on an individual month, is because so much, almost all of our grant income, we have to spend it first, so it shows up as an expense, which very well puts us over budget many times. But we do get the money back, but we just have to wait for it for a little bit. And let's see, so that was the bulk of it. I didn't think there was anything special then that accounted for the remainder of that, pretty much spread throughout. Initially, we had budgeted a net income loss of $63,319. However, with the building improvements and some other additional expenses, the loss actually came in for October at $293,870. And we've talked before about our cycle, I believe we pointed out that I think usually only 5 of our months do we have budgeted a large increased gain to cash, and that is timed with those big grant awards that happen to come in. And then the other months, usually we would expect to have a slight cash loss. Sometimes it slides into a little bit more, as was the case here in October. And then as of 10/31, our ending cash balance was $939,428. Then looking at the last column on our big cash flow spreadsheet, which we, for lack of a better name, would call it our best projections for the year end based on the actuals through 10/31 and then what remains as budgeted, or occasionally we will change a future budget item if we know that we're really missing it, especially if we're understating expenses. That way we avoid any unexpected surprises at the end of the year. Comparing our latest projected year end with where we were last board meeting, last month, total income, we're up $482,069. And most of that is, in fact, probably all of that, or a lot of it is due to our state tuition. We basically, our budget was $775. I believe that Bookkeeping Plus was using the 800 number, so that was what we were based on from July through October. However, as you all know, our actual first ADM count was 850. So in November and December, that is usually when the Indiana Department of Education will settle up, let's say. So that is probably what accounted for a large portion of that, let's say, favorable income variance. Now, comparing 482,000 up with our total expenses, well, those were also up from our last month's projections, but in a lesser amount, $391,998. So doing the math there, that does improve what we are projecting our ending cash net income to be, which would be $809,918. And that would leave us with a very good ending cash balance of $1,258,016. Now, again, this is a year-end projection, let's say as of 10/31. That very well could change, and as we get into our amended budget discussion, we may we'll demonstrate that that probably will go down a little. We don't know how much yet, because we do have some additional projects that we know are going to take place before the end of the school year. And I'll reserve that for our discussion here on the budget. So that's all I have about October's, the month, and the year-to-date. Are there any other questions or anything else that anybody's wondering about October's events?
No? Not for October.
I don't
Any
think
questions at
nothing
all?
really
Nothing?
extraordinary happened, I don't think.
There you go.
Maybe the adjustment of the state tuition.
Yes.
So
We'll be
there were
more
no-
excited when that reimbursement comes in.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's always good, so I don't
Those
think
are really
there was
fun
any red
emails.
flags that popped up on us.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. There's no other questions here. We'll put a motion to approve the board treasurer report.
Also motion?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you. All right, let's see here. Next thing is we need to approve the 2022 financials for October. Oh, we actually already did that. Next thing on the agenda here should be the old business here. School safety update on Halo devices. Yes.
So, I am very excited to announce that we are getting our Halos. So, this has been a very long process, but because of the upcoming budget amendment and some other things that have fallen into place, we are now able to fund this project. For those of you who don't remember, the halos are basically devices that go into the ceiling throughout the building. They look kind of like smoke detectors. They are originally designed as vape detection devices, so a lot of places put them in bathrooms. They can detect if kids are vaping, if they're smoking, if they take cologne to try to cover up. It's called masking. It can tell the differences there, but over the last 18 to 24 months, as we've been working on getting this project, it has developed where it can test air quality. It can see if there's an increase in health challenges that would be in there. But now it also can detect sound, including gunshots. It can detect physical aggression. It can detect escalations. We can put specific decibels associated with it, and as soon as it gets sent off, activated, it can set an alarm right there in that space. But will also text, call whomever is supposed to respond to that type of situation.
Okay.
There are also it's incredible, and one of the grants that I tried to pursue, I called it the eyes in the skies, but really it's ears in the sky, right? And if we have some kiddos where we can give them a word that they can say, and if they say that word while they're in a locker room or somewhere, that can make it alert whoever to come to that area. And so, looking at it, vaping is becoming a very serious problem among teenagers, with vape cartridges tasting like cookie dough and, strawberries and things like that. Kids are using them. They don't really understand the severity of what's behind them. The nicotine content is much more significant than cigarettes, or one cartridge is essentially a pack of cigarettes, and kids could go through a cartridge in an hour. So that a lot of schools have been trying to combat that. But now having the actual added security features and being able to put it out throughout the entire building, both campuses, and having that peace of mind that if there is even a hint that something is escalating, right, that our response teams can get into place and do something. Best offense is a good defense, and as school safety issues continue to evolve, so does our response. It has to go along with it. And so very much looking forward to that. Yearly cost for us for the equipment and the monitoring is about $116,000. So it comes with quite a price tag, but that will actually, you will see it, I put it on my CEO report, that will actually be in our debt service mortgage line on our cash flow and budget, because it is going to be as a leased product. By going on a 5-year lease, we do own the products at the end of the 5 years. There's not like a dollar buyout or anything, but during that time period, that they're responsible for all maintenance on it. They're responsible for all installation costs. They're responsible for all equipment upgrades. So if they go through a firmware or a software upgrade, they take care of all of that. If they decide that they are going to upgrade to a new model of the devices, then they will come and fix ours and change them out. So I think it is a very good investment, obviously, in the safety of our students and our staff, and is going to just give us another tool to try to help keep everybody as safe as possible.
When are we supposed to get that, or
So
the install date?
my initial meeting is on Thursday, and we are going to develop the timeline. They're going to get started extremely quickly on that. They've been sourcing and making sure that we have everything we need. All the measurements have already been done, all of the mapping of where they're going to go. They are PoE, so they are powered through Ethernet, so we don't have to do a lot of electrical installation or anything like that. We've already talked about where the port placements will be, and IT has already plotted that out with them so that there's enough spaces available on our existing structures.
And that's just in this building,
Oh, no,
or in
it's
both
both. Yeah.
buildings?
Yeah, it's both buildings. They'll be throughout the hallways. They'll be throughout the restrooms. They won't, in some of the areas, they won't be like in a gymnasium necessarily because little kids screaming at the top of their lungs, looking at our little elementary kiddos. They get really excited about PE with Coach Scott, but there will be enough on the peripheral that will pick up everything that it needs to. So they also won't have to go in the classrooms because they'll be close enough to the doors and all that their radius will pick everything up. So
And at the end of that 5-year lease, then we're responsible for the fixing of everything, correct?
yes, we would be, or at that time we could just enter into a new upgraded program. But we would after that we would pay about $1,200 to $1,800 a month per building just for the monitoring, the ongoing systems and things. So that's part of that service plan and things. It's just they're not going to give us new equipment, but.
During those 5 years, if we hypothetically expand or change or do something significantly, would they still cover that under that?
Yeah, they're
process?
supposed to.
Okay.
And if we find, when they go through this, and if we find like maybe a dead spot or something isn't, they will adjust and, assume that cost to make sure that we are covered the way they said we were covered.
Okay.
So, very excited about this.
Now,
That's
was
amazing.
this the item that you originally did not like the train proposal for, or the one that they or am I confusing that with something else?
Train did have a device that they wanted to put on the air handlers, but it wasn't for it was just air quality.
Okay.
And we got those air purifiers because you can change them out, you can change the filters, and it's a lot less of a mess system. But yeah, it's
Yeah, I remember
separate.
you
Yeah.
selected another system that you liked better than what they were offering, but
Yeah.
it wasn't this one.
Yeah, nope. This was another part, and also it will give us biofeedback. So if we have a little bit of the flu or things like that going around, I don't know how it can tell, but allegedly it can tell that there's an uptick in something, and I'm like, I don't know. So
All right.
halodetect.com. That's its real website.
Now, do we need to make a motion then to approve this? Or
No.
It's already in the budget?
Yeah, it's already in there. Yeah.
Or the amended budget?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you look in the news, I think within the last 3 weeks, I was very, very excited for the township schools down south. But they also came out that I think Franklin Township, their communities using some of their rescue plan money, and they're all getting Halo devices too for their buildings. So we gotta be with their ranks for a little bit.
Getting harder and harder to smoke in the boys' restroom now, I guess.
It is. We really want people to keep their lungs intact.
Yes. My student taught, I think that was one of the first things they put me on was policing the, spying on the boys' restroom. I remember that, so that's a long time ago.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you for that. Next thing, new business. First thing on the agenda here, the 29th Street field trip to Wright-Patterson Air Force Museum on January 12th of 2023.
All right. So one of our favorite places to go visit, Director Miller wants to take an incentive group to the U.S. Air Force Museum. We've had several kids get to go over the past few years. These amazing people over there in the audience got to take kids over there, and the kids always have a really great time there, right?
Yes.
They really enjoy
awesome
getting to be a
museum.
part of it, and so really I bring it to the board because it crosses state lines, and it will be a single day trip. They'll leave early in the morning and get back around dismissal time period.
What ages is that's going?
This
Or
will be
what
high
years?
school.
High
Yeah,
school.
high school.
Do they
So-
bring their lunch or do they eat over the cafeteria over there?
Typically, they eat at the cafeteria,
cafeteria,
or
yeah.
they stop and get fast food, something really healthy, I'm sure, on that. And then
Yeah.
if we have kids that need help with meals and things like that, we always take care of that for them.
Are they leaving before school typically starts then?
Yeah, they will pretty much leave right after arrival.
Oh, okay.
One of the challenges we always face with taking field trips and having everybody not having buses, we've got to kind of navigate when the parking lot will be cleared out and take our turns.
It's like a 2-hour drive, right?
Yeah, so on school bus.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Awesome. All right.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve the field trip for the 29th Street to Wright-Patterson on January 12th.
Thank you. I have a motion.
I'll second that.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? All right, motion carries. Thank you for that. And tell them we're excited for them to go to Wright-Patterson. It's always a great museum tour facility event for them. So look forward to seeing some pictures.
Amazing.
Absolutely.
We're there, very, very thankful to have it so close to us.
Yes, absolutely. I feel like they always expand every time I almost go there. So yes, it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Deflate people, yeah.
Yes.
The technology always expands too,
Yes. Thank you. All right, next thing on the agenda here is the 2022 to 2023 budget amendment.
Okay, let's see. Let me try to get us started here.
All right.
Okay, Jill and I had an interesting meeting yesterday. I don't know if you had, all of you had a chance with the holiday weekend to look at the pre-meeting financial review I sent out late Saturday afternoon. But in that, there was a lot of questions that I was trying to ponder. We really have, as if I'm recalling correctly, I think we have only voted on one prior budget amendment, and that was pre-Jill's tenure here. So I wasn't quite sure what the ground rules were, and Bookkeeping Plus probably noted that I was a little bit confused on some things there. I think that you got me straightened out pretty much yesterday. The original budget was at 775 students, and then we know that our actual ADM is 850 with a mix of virtual and in-house students. Of course, we know that the virtual students only receive 85% of the, let's say, the foundation or the base funding amount. So the amended budget then is based on 835. So it's a little lower than 850, and I think that's a good number because that does sort of help us recognize that at the second ADM count, there's the potential to gain a few students, but more likely we may lose anywhere from 1 to 10. Last year we only lost 2, but that could go down the last 3 months. And it also, I think, was a good number for everyone to choose here because it does help us capture the fact that our virtual students, I think around 60 currently, do get a little less dollars than the in-house. So that's always been a tough line to project out for a whole year. So basically comparing the two, and if you want to get into the details, I've got that on my, I think it was 5 pages, my report. I'll just hit the highlights. In total income, we started off with $11,042,710, and our amended budget is pretty close to what our projected 1031 is at $11,959,512. Now that's total income, so a big part of that obviously is state tuition, and then anything that's tied to that ADM count, for example, our innovation grant will go up. I can't off the top of my head pull that number in, but 92,000, something like that.
93, yeah.
Okay, and then that little CTE vocational grant was up about 3,000. And so anything that was tied to the ADM count went up a little bit. Total expenses then, that went up. Originally, we were thinking back in May, maybe 10,976,284. Well, now we're calling it 11,917,973. So that's up 941,689. So sort of what we did on our October math here, that means that our budgeted cash net income for the year is actually going to be a little less than our original 66,426. We're calling it 41,539. Both of the then cash figures on the amended original budget were not very good, and I believe we'll certainly exceed those, so I'm not concerned. But originally 514, 524, and now we're looking at 489, 637. Now, what I learned in my discussion then with Jill is that only adjusted income items that were based on ADM were changed. And as she pointed out, perhaps up to 600,000 reimbursements from ESSER, from any reimbursement that was actually earned during last school year. But because reimbursements were delayed, didn't get received until that big inflow there in July and August, those were not added to the original budget, which is how it should be. If you're amending it, you're not making that a brand-new total forecast based on what you know right now. However, and this was a little bit what I stumbled over in my write-up, I did recognize that, well, first of all, I saw the light when I noticed that health insurance was 150,000 or so overstated because in the May budget, school year hadn't started, we have to assume that everybody is going to take the fully loaded APA insurance plan, which we know they won't. So when I saw that, that helped clear a lot up for me. But then I recognized that, as we've already talked about our Halo lease, there were some new expenses that we didn't know about, or maybe we were dreaming about them back in May, but those have been added to the amended budget. So I told Jill, I said, I see why we don't do this often, because it's really hard to explain. My first fear was, I thought, well, now wait a minute, we're projecting 800,000 cash net income, and now we're making an amended budget with 44, which where are we actually going to end up? Probably in the middle as usual, but maybe a little closer to that top number. So we've talked about in our CEO report the Halo lease. One question I had, I noticed right up front the interest expense. I think we were calling it 243,000 with our existing mortgages, and I noticed then that on the amended budget it jumped to 396,000 some. And I thought, whoa, what new stuff are we buying here with all of our new money? Jill thought that excess amount was because we computed the debt service in the amended budget going back to where we started at July the 1st. So that made sense to me. If we're incorrect on any of this, somebody please.
Say it adds in the halos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the halos are added in
The
there.
lease is added in there,
Yeah.
because it's the principal portion, actually, the interest portion stays the same because the lease is just going against principal,
Okay.
because it's imputed in there.
Mhm.
Okay.
And then we did learn, or I learned yesterday, that our two buses, or maybe one, I don't know, we may have to take what we can get, will be cash transactions. So there was nothing in the debt service on that, or the additional computers, or any of the software upgrades, et cetera. And then, let's see, the only thing I have jotted down here, I think there was some minor things that we were going to hash out with Bookkeeping Plus on sub pay and that, what was that, under G&A, that professional,
Yes.
yeah, we won't get into that.
What's in the
quagmire.
budget is correct on that.
Oh,
What was in the
okay.
cash flow, you're right, it was wonky.
Hmm.
It'll be fixed in November.
Okay, yeah, we don't want to get into the swamp too much here. And then Jill did indicate on her CEO report gives a great breakdown of this, much better than what I can do here. But new positions, we did add a few. She was calling it maybe 186,000 additional that we did not have reflected back in the original May budget, although I wondered about that. We had 3 new dual employees, but one was existing, and then 2 are new, but they haven't been on the payroll yet, so, okay. And then the 105,000, the SASE position is still unfilled. We're still trying to fill it, so I'm not sure that really there was too much additional, maybe, yeah, it
Yeah,
wasn't that much. I think the salary was pretty much already baked into it.
Yeah, and because we did change how we were doing our cleaning services at 22nd Street, it kind of, there's a little fluctuation there. Looking at the extra part that we have, we did go ahead and add a pass facilitator, which is our in-school services for students that are facing some behavioral challenges at the elementary, because we have had that increase in behaviors. And that person will also work with translation services for us and with our ELL population. So I put the demographics in my CEO report. Our ELL population, our students that require individualized learning plans for language interventions, has doubled this year, which is great. But we needed more resources to be able to better meet their needs.
Now, are they counted as special needs?
No, they are a special population.
Okay.
So there's IEPs, which is special education, and then there's ILPs, which is English language learners. And so the English language learners, they've tossed out a lot of different acronyms for them. English as a new language, English as a second language, and then, we have people that English wouldn't be their second language, it may be their third or fourth, and so they landed on English language learners, at least for now. And so that's the population we're serving. Right now, our primary language in that department are Spanish-speaking students, but there are schools within our state that have a high Burmese population and some other nationalities there. So, but our ELL program has had to grow to be able to better help the kiddos. And then we've also brought in JobSource group that we partnered with for Star Tutoring. They're also bringing in some of their tutors during the day and using the grant that I helped them on to fund that. So that's not a cost to APA. So, kind of all hands on deck. And like I said, with Sergeant Tidwell there, I've already sent the email to admin that we need all the help we can get. So that's kind of what's in there right now.
Yeah. Now, will we, when we get at the end of January, be our next board meeting, and then that will be the actual results from July through November.
Correct.
Will we see on that last column that we call our latest year in projection, will we see a lot of changes, Beth and Andrea? I guess what we've been fishing for is what do we really think our end of the year will be? We're hoping that it's not 44,000 or 66,000, but with 3 new projects on board, it's probably not going to be what we were stating earlier. Do you have any feel for that yet, or is it too soon?
Well, it gets really confusing, because we're gonna have to incorporate this new budget that's been approved, take into account the things that were left over from last year and the income. And then obviously this doesn't count for beginning cash, and then, because we never put a budget with beginning cash, because I always think that's misleading.
Right, it's a good
we'll
idea.
project it through on where we are after the approval. I feel good that based on what Jill said, that things are really good. The income, like you talked about, it's always difficult with the number of students, but when we did the budget, our per student count that we had originally based it off of was 8113, and it came in at 8142. So we were really good on estimating those part-time, the 85% students in comparison. Andrew did a great job on that. So I feel really good that we've captured everything in this budget, and I do think that we are going to come in higher as far as our ending cash when we incorporate the carry forward of the income and things like that. And then, like you say, when we do the estimates on the health insurance, that's one that's always high, so I think that's going to cause it to be higher on some things. So there's those type of things that I think it's going to impact it, but again, you've got to look at worst case scenario, and then it's better, is really what it boils down to.
Right. Yeah. Well, let's see. I guess our objective tonight is to approve, make a motion and approve the amended budget based on what my analysis of what I read through, and then what I've heard with Jill and myself, and then your comments too. I certainly have no, well, I'm not sure I should make the motion, however.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Tell me, so
Mike
we're getting ready to
would-
call
Yeah.
ya.
Mike finally, after
So
12
hold on,
years, he
yes.
finally got that across. But I certainly, I agree that you don't necessarily, amended budgets you don't want to do often. But if there are material changes, you really need to do that, because if you don't, if you try to do the budget, the actual versus, the actual versus budget, the variance analysis, which can be an important tool, it's almost useless if everything is total. It's either we're too good or too bad, and it's not reflecting reality. So I agree that in this case, with I think 60 additional people from the original 775, that would be a material difference. Also, as we discussed yesterday, I believe in our charter, our agreements and guidelines from Ball State's Office of Charter Schools, I think in October, they indicate that at that point, we need to review our budget and our projections and numbers against what's actually happening, and they sort of imply, they don't say amended budget, but if we're really off, especially if we're overstating anything, we do need to correct that. So that is, you really, they are saying we could perhaps almost do this every year if needed.
Well, I think it's material that's the reason why, and this is material.
I agree.
Over what the previous year is, and I think it's also good to have it amended in the fact that it helps you catch when there is a problem, when you've got big swing differences, a problem can slip through and
Yes.
it's not as noticeable, and I just think it's real important to be, again, for transparency and just for everyone to be more, attuned to what's going on.
I agree completely, so I am very supportive of anyone that would want to make a motion to, for us to approve this.
All right.
I will make a motion
Thank
to
you.
approve the amended budget.
Silence. Killing
Yeah,
it.
thank you, Angie. All right, Angie,
I'll
thank you.
second it.
I think we already got a second
Do
from
you second?
George, yeah.
Okay, great.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. All right, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? All right, and it passes. Thank you for that. Thank you, Dave and Jill, and also Bookkeeping Plus for all your work as always. I know budget stuff is can be challenging at times, but thank you. I truly appreciate that. All right. All right. Next thing on the agenda here is the CEO performance
See you guys.
review. All right. We'll see you later. Thank you for
Bye.
coming. Yes. All right. Next thing on the agenda here, news business here is 2021-2022 CEO performance review.
Oh,
Yes.
Hi.
Nice.
oh, thought we just got done with the last one. Wow.
I finished another year
Yeah.
out, guys. So. What do I say on the other?
Uh-huh.
All right, I don't know what to say.
You only get that. All right. So, in the past, I would say typically, I think 2018 was the last one we talked about, right?
Where we did like the
Where we did
full-on one.
Our
the
last,
2018-19 school year.
yeah, 2018-2019 school years where we did our last CEO performance review. And what that entails actually doing a review, somewhat of a formalization type style of what Jill is doing and how she's operating and such from there. It hasn't been done since. So there's definitely should be in place to do so from that. I think definitely going forward, and especially now, we should have some type of structure in place with that. So that's something that we definitely need to put into place here, how we want to structure it, how we want to look at it. That's definitely something we'll review behind the scenes and probably from send out to the board and such. But in general here, we like to recognize all the work that Jill is doing here, the performance of it, how her outstanding work is doing now, and kind of some other areas if we want to look at, and definitely going forward with that. So that's why we want to put that in place here for a review here. And that comes and tells with her contract, if you guys recall from there, about bonuses and stuff that comes into place with that. All right. You want to add anything with that? You can continue on. Yes. All right. So,
May I ask
yes.
a question? So what was the 360 review
Oh, yeah.
thing
Yes.
that we did?
That's what I was about to get to, yes.
Can I, yes, so,
Yeah,
Yes.
so that was done in the 2018-19 school
Mhm.
year. And basically, part of that, they use Qualtrics, which we did purchase so we could reuse that now. Still working on getting our account set up and everything, so we can't do it like right now. But basically, that was a survey that went out to our staff, and they provided feedback on my performance. I wasn't a part of the development of that, and some of the sections that were on it were not actually necessarily relevant to my job. Some of the rules that were on there were more about what a principal would do. And so while it gave us some good feedback and gave me some areas that I could grow and work on, some of it just wasn't, where I can be evaluated, right,
Yeah.
in it. And so that's one of those things I really like feedback. I think that it is important for my growth as a professional and for my ability to better serve our teachers, students, and families, to be able to have that, for them to be able to have a voice in that. I don't necessarily think that that should be kind of the only metric that's on there, right? Because
Right.
if it's the day where I didn't call a delay or something like that, it might not come back exactly that right way. But I think it's something that I would really enjoy working with the board on, to kind of
Yes.
look at how other school leaders are evaluated. A traditional school superintendent survey doesn't exactly apply to my areas as well, so we'd have to kind of piece it together and make it our own. But yeah, that's what that process was. And moving forward, I think it's good to put that in there. And then as we're looking at my contract and looking at my bonuses and things, there's
Mhm.
a metric that we're trying to hit.
Yeah.
So.
So yes, so with that, and also with upcoming, with the teacher grant that typically happens, that we normally do it during December, I think it's a great opportunity to even recognize Jill, besides that grant as well too, for her work here, and outstanding work, I will say, what she's doing day to day here, to ensuring that school is operating successfully, all of our facilities, and everything is going forward with. All right, with that. So, with that, I would like to see if we can do that tonight. We can- Okay, all right.
I feel like I should just
Yeah.
hide right now and stop looking
You're
at me.
fine, no. With her, in the contract, I believe it was a 5,000. I have to look in there, but I believe it's 5,000 that we can do as a bonus here, with that. And I think that's something I would like to put to the table here tonight, to see if we can go ahead and move that forward now with her, as we have some stuff coming up at the end of the year as well there too.
Are you making a motion for that? What are you?
Yes, I would like to
wanting?
recommend, yes, a motion
Okay.
for that, yes.
Okay.
I want you to think about it first.
Yeah.
I want you to think about
I
it
must
first.
confess,
with
it's
that.
been a
Yes.
while since I have actually reviewed
Yes.
that contract.
Yes.
We reviewed it when we were putting it
Yeah.
together, so,
And this would be based off of my previous contract,
And there's a
not the
previous
new
one
one
as
that I
well,
got.
yeah.
mhm.
is that document in the boardable stuff?
I do not believe it is.
I don't
I
think
Yeah,
think it's in my
think her
personnel
old one.
file. I
Oh,
don't,
it's-
I don't know if the
Uh-huh.
new or the original are.
I don't remember seeing it in there.
Yeah,
Yeah, because again, I can't remember what it said either, that's, so.
But you have reviewed it very recently, so you're
Absolutely.
on, you know exactly what it
Yes.
says, so.
yes, absolutely.
Well, if you feel that, since you're on top of it here, if you feel that this is necessary tonight,
Yes.
on your word, I'll certainly make a motion that if we if that's what we feel is needed, then
Yes.
I will make a motion that we go ahead and pass that. I'm not sure of the exact wording. We may have to stumble through here and let Angie clean it up for us, but as she does so well, so often that.
All right, so I'll put a motion here for the 2022 performance review for Jill here, a recommendation of $5,000.
Okay.
Yes.
And I will make a motion that we approve our chairperson's recommendation about the $5,000 bonus.
All right.
I will second it.
Dinner's on her.
Woo-hoo!
Oh, that's right, yeah.
We're going to McDonald's value menu, everybody.
Okay.
One of everything.
All right, so a motion is second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you, Jill, for all your work and everything. Truly appreciate that.
Tolerating us all.
Yes.
I don't play favorites with the board, but,
Yes.
you know. Yeah, no, I truly appreciate that.
Yeah. All right. So however that needs to be handled, I'm sure you, behind the scenes. Good, all right. All right, next thing on the discussion, or agenda here is it's discussion, excuse me. Any other further discussion?
I have something to bring to the board.
Sure.
It's prompted from earlier, and I thought about it in the past few months. It seems like we're always waiting until something breaks to get something. And with things becoming more and more expensive, with vandalism getting worse and worse, and with more daily robberies and thefts during the day, it's a two-folded comment that I have for Jill. One, could you get a wish list for us together of things that you would like us to start thinking about, like either a pole barn, things that you don't have to store in a castle, whether an old storage facility, but just things that, because these buses are getting expensive.
Yeah.
I mean, we're lucky now that we're in a place that we can.
Which I think is one of the polls for new versus used.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we've been taking a proactive approach over about the last 2 years, because, you know, we were in very much a reaction mode, right? A lot of things, looking at like the HVAC and the roofs and everything, it was bubble gum and rubber bands, whatever we could afford at that time. Now, as the state has provided innovation funding and as they've grown that funding for us, we've kind of been able to go on offense a little bit with it. And that's part of being able to buy brand new buses, because we've always had to buy probably fifth hand buses wherever you go there, right? We're the ones we've been purchasing are off some lot over in the country away after they've already gone through all their cycles. And so, but we definitely have a wish list. And as part of the strategic plan process that we're going through right now, you know, we've got a long wish list, but trying to find out, you know, the priorities with it. Obviously, getting that parking lot done has been amazing. Something as silly as a parking lot or new gym doors and things, they go a long way with our kids, our staff, and things. But yeah, it is frustrating that, you know, we get this taken care of, we get this, and then it gets stolen or the converter gets taken.
Even if it can be a preliminary for this point, I know you have items, and instead of prioritizing them now, at least get us something to where we have an idea of what could be coming, or, you know, it doesn't necessarily have to be priority now, but something that we have an idea of.
Yeah, and one of those roofs, that's always a fun one. We are very close to finishing out 29th Street. The materials for the final section are actually sitting up there where they can't be stolen. That is not a challenge for whoever is listening on that. But then we turn our eyes to 22nd Street. That's one of our biggest ones over there. And by doing that now, we will prevent a lot of the issues that we've had here. But yeah, oh, absolutely, I will get you ours.
I just feel it'll be helpful and easier for you in the long run.
Yeah.
Because if something's sitting on your wish list for 2 years, it's not going to be such a shock for some of the newer board members. You know, where someone like me, by that point, hey, she's been asking for this for a while. That's on us for not being able to complete that.
And planning purposes as well too. That's a great idea for that. So
Yeah,
we can look at
have
financially and
long
stuff to kind of see
tried to
what's
get that
prioritized.
done.
Yeah.
And it's just never really materialized. It's difficult to do because you're dependent, I mean, none of us are engineers or maintenance people, but I agree completely, especially, I think next year, the last of the ESSER monies, all of these big grants will be gone. And this amended budget, actually, when I first looked at it and was trying to figure out how to interpret this, the thought crossed my mind when I saw the low cash levels that we really do need to do some kind of forecasting over the next couple years just to make sure that we don't get to where we were right before COVID hit,
Right.
where we were having to every year, two or 3 years in a row, we were having to drop our cash to cover the operating expenses. And then included in that on a cash basis would be the cash, those capital expenditures. So I agree, George, that we really do need, I think, to get a handle on what's coming down the road here so we don't get bushwhacked on anything.
And, you know, with the innovation grant funding, like I said earlier,
Because
that
we don't lose that.
we don't lose that.
Unless the legislature
Nope, they're
got rid
gonna,
of it.
we won't let them.
Yeah.
She's not, yeah.
No, that's just not gonna happen.
Yeah.
Well, and, you know, we are going into the long session with the biennium budget, and education funding is at the forefront, right?
Saw
You know, the state is sitting on this lovely pile of money. How much did they give us back? Like 150 each or something? But there does need to be more equitability in funding, and that's not just for charter schools or choice schools. You know, looking at some of those smaller schools or in certain areas,
Yep.
they have property tax caps. Well, they're never going to be able to get the things they need to serve the students they serve. So it's not just charters, and so there's been more of a unifying cry. Some more alliances are forming. So yeah, the innovation grant, that's not going away. But, you know, that's part of why we're doing the big projects we have right now. And, you know, even looking at this budget amendment, doing a lot of one-time purchases instead of saying, oh, well, we're going to have 835 kids moving forward. No, we, you know, put a lot of one-time expenses in there, and if we pay cash, you know, we're free and clear. For those of you that are newer to the board, when we used to do our computer purchases, we would go get a computer lease, and then, you know, we were, you know, our debt service ratio, we had some challenges getting that within the range that it needed to be.
Yeah, we missed that a couple of years. But we had to borrow it, I mean,
Yeah.
because there was no way you could pay for cash out of everything.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and it's been a nice position to be in, but definitely putting things aside, and also making sure that the facilities, you know, these are big, old, beautiful buildings. They're a little grumpy sometimes, but a lot of the things that we have been putting in place right now, you know, Jim Norris, who's our director of maintenance, he and I joke about, well, we're going to make it last to our retirement, right? Commandant Guillaume would say, oh, well, we need it to last till he retires. Well, he and I are in some different age brackets there, and so that was maybe a year or two when he was doing that, and so we're hoping for a couple more years out of that.
Out of curiosity, because of the age of what they are, because I know 29, the elementary side has been around quite a while. At one point, it was just a one-room schoolhouse.
Yeah.
Is there historical aspects that we can look into as well?
That would definitely be worth looking into, because you're right, 29th Street, having a school building stand on that ground has been
A long
a
time.
very long time. One of the first schools in Madison County was over there, with like the one-room schoolhouse. So
Right.
that might be getting on the National Register would be incredible. And that's been one of the beauties of us existing in the community, right? We got to bring the buildings back
Right.
to their use. So, but yeah, I'll get you a wish list.
Yeah, because I know strategic plans always have like the future goals, the 10-year
Right.
plan, the 5-year plan. I just wanted us, who knows how long I'm going to be allowed to sit on my term.
Right.
But the question is, how will you ever get off? That usually is
Once
the question once you're on.
Yeah.
Like your top 10.
Yeah.
You know, something that we can do for you without, you know, sacrificing the integrity of the curriculum, the students, and the facility.
Absolutely, yes.
I'm glad you
Work on
brought
it.
that up, because this is a good time. We really need to be looking forward like that.
You know, we don't have a SASE. I mean, this is probably for something later on. With certain faculty members not being here, we're not paying for those faculty
Right.
members. So yes, we amended the budget, but there's also going to be some capital or some budgeted that money that's still there.
Mhm.
Correct.
Angie, go ahead.
Can I ask another tie-in kind of question? Talking about facilities, can I ask what is the current status of 25th Street? Because I know that they're trying to get those cats out of there.
They're gone.
Okay. And then I think somebody else was asking about like one of the other places that would sell.
Secret families, yes.
Yeah. So can I just ask what's the status of
Yeah.
25th Street?
So we have, we had the nonprofits in there. We still have a couple that are still there. And we let them know that we were looking to moving it back to educational purposes 24-25 school year. The boiler is on its very last leg, and it's better for us to winterize the building this year while we do our repairs and renovations that start in January. As we do some of it, you'll see a lot more of that on the next budget cycle for that building. But yes, APL, they have relocated. Betsy's Morsels, they've moved to 8th Street. They still have one room over at 25th Street that they're using for storage, as they're still in that moving part. Secret Families, they are looking for a new home. They're fine right now, but you know, they're thinking long-term as well. Turnaway no longer, they are still currently there. And then our jet fuel program, we're still there, where we will remain.
That's the grocery project, is that correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
yep, that's the human food pantry. I was doing an interview earlier with a school year group, and I said, well, our human food pantry, and they looked at me like I was crazy. I was like, oh, because there's a pet food pantry in the building too. But yeah, so they've been able to relocate, so. It's been a very big win-win for everybody, and it's time for us to go and add a little bit back to 25th Street.
Years ago,
Okay.
let's see, John Riley commissioned, we called it the Envoy Study, John being our first board chairperson. And as I recall, I think they were estimating, seemed like about 800,000 to really do a good job of upgrading that. I think the only thing they thought was in great shape was that Anderson community, when they last owned it, had put new windows in it. And of course, I think when I joined the board, I think I was hearing the same scenario, that these boilers are on their last leg. So, but then the next year, our maintenance people would go over, and we would hear at the board meeting, oh no, we got them fixed, they're no problem, they're up and running. And then we rotate from year to year, so I'm never really quite sure what the deal is on the boilers over there or anything else.
They are, at this point, we're not opening.
I would assume the worst case on that building.
Yeah,
so.
well, but I mean, it made it almost 15 years.
So if those numbers were true, and they've even higher today, again, that sort of ties in what you were saying. How much of that can we cover by grant? If we had to cover a lot of that out of cash, that could be a real problem.
Yeah, we don't need all of what they would be proposing, right?
I'm sure that's probably true, yeah.
And for that study, they were looking at overhauling and redoing all of the plumbing with the
Okay, so
boiler
you've seen
system
it
and
there,
the steam
yeah.
and all that. And instead of redoing that, you can move to a split system with the new technology that's out and have individual controls that are energy efficient.
That's good news.
And,
Yeah.
you know, there are ways around it.
And you said that's gonna begin in January 24 then?
23. Yeah,
Oh,
we're
this
starting
January.
some of the
Okay.
clean out and some of the small renovations that we can do ourselves.
Okay.
So, you know,
Well,
light
maybe it won't be
insulation,
that bad
painting.
then. So,
I'm sure
let's
that
hope.
there will be a nice price tag on it eventually, but
Yeah.
With the housing of the animals and food, I know that there's other free running animals.
yeah.
what kind of expenses are we looking at for the cleanup and disinfecting?
So probably not too significant on that. While the animals were in there, they've cleaned their place out pretty well. They weren't really roaming free or anything, and they were
Right.
just in their spots. So really a heavy duty cleaning. We're gonna bring Baxters in, and have them, do a sweep of the building.
Okay.
We'll probably do some fumigating and things like that, just to cover all
Sure.
bases, yeah. But the biggest challenge we face are the raccoons that like to try to eat the roof.
Nope.
So those are my nemesis. Over here it's the groundhogs, which we've come to an understanding, but over there it's still the raccoons that like to eat the roof. So we're working with that.
So since my house isn't very far from there, make sure that those raccoons don't come over to my house.
Got
Oh,
it.
yeah.
We will relocate them to Allen County or somewhere. You gotta go really far to get them from coming back.
Yeah. Awesome. Any other further discussion? Well, thank you for attending tonight. We'll call the meeting. If I can get actually a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
I'll second.
There you go. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? All right, the meeting is called. Thank you. At 7.
That's adjourned to executive session, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Adjournment to
What's the
executive section. Yeah.
Time?
7:12.
7:12.